Hi, my name is Preet Singh. I'm founder and CEO of Enginelitix. We are an AI vendor to Fortune 100 companies and startups. We make AI-powered decision support systems, and we've been doing this since 2019, even before AI was a trend. We also offer AI training for corporates. Feel free to connect with me. That's my email address there, or on LinkedIn. Just type in Preet Singh Enginelitix. I'll be the only one. This talk is pre-recorded. I apologize. I'm currently traveling in Asia, and it'll be either 1:30 or 3:30 in the morning, depending on which city I'm in when this talk is being televised. So this talk was on an AI tool cheat sheet. Now, typically, I usually give talks at conferences for specialists, neural net architecture, why a particular recommender system for an e-tailer hasn't quite worked out as yet, what can be done to improve it, that sort of thing. But this isn't about the nitty-gritty for AI specialists, right? When I was talking with one of the organizers of the conference, we realized there are a whole bunch of people out there who haven't really delved into the new generative AI tools, Claude, Replit, and they're usually overwhelmed by the surfeit of tools that are out there. So why is this confusing? Essentially the purpose of this talk. So a few things. One is obviously I mentioned the surfeit of choices. We've got Claude, we've got ChatGPT, we've got Gemini, we've got a whole bunch of these general LLMs, these core engines. We've got the specialist spin-off AI tools, Replit, Gamma, Perplexity. I think Perplexity builds their own engine. There are a whole bunch of them out there. The first tier probably has, I don't know, 15, 20 tools. Second and third tiers, we're probably talking about 100 plus AI tools. And they're all promising to revolutionize your workflow. Now, what really makes it confusing is that AI tools are often the same beneath the hood. The core engines are the same, and the core engines do a pretty good job on their own, which essentially means you can take a vanilla flavor or you can take a specialist flavor and they'll do the same job, but the specialist flavor will charge you, I don't know, triple the price. What also makes this confusing, and I'm going to explain this a little bit more in detail, is that these AI tools are generative AI tools. Generative AI is not a specialized technology. It's a general technology, and I'll explain what I mean by that. And obviously, lastly, why makes this incredibly confusing is that these tools and their abilities are changing with incredible frequency. I've used tools that couldn't do certain basic tasks 6 months ago, and now they're doing an advanced version of that flawlessly. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the choices, if you're curious, if you're not really using any of these tools frequently or fluently and wondering, how should I incorporate that into my workflow for my common tasks? So if you're unsure about any of this, then essentially this talk is for you. Now, I talked a little bit about generative AI, and let me go back a slide where I said Gen AI is not a specialized technology. That's because what you have is you have these LLMs or these, what I would describe them as core engines. These core engines have one job. They generate data and they generate little pieces of data and string them together intelligently. So they'll generate characters intelligently into coherent words, generate words intelligently, coherently into sentences, sentences intelligently into coherent, complex documents, and images work pretty much the same way, right? They're generating colored dots, pixels, intelligently in some way to produce coherent, recognizable images. And those images then to produce videos. So essentially, that's all it's doing. It's generating data, various forms of data, according to some intelligent pattern it's picked up, into something coherent and recognizable that we detect as a pattern. Now, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, et al. Are these engines. They're the building blocks for the specialists. There's a whole bunch of them. If you do a search for LLMs, if you're not familiar with this, then you'll see a whole bunch of them out there. I'm going to touch on ChatGPT and Claude primarily. I consider them almost interchangeable in their abilities at this point. That's not quite true. There are some differences out there. But depending on your use cases, one, you usually prefer one over the other. And these two, I would say, are the market leaders. So, quick tangent. We're going to show a few demos. There's going to be technical as well as non-technical demos of these tools in action. So now we've talked about core engines. And this leads to a spoiler. There really are no specialist applications. The specialist AI tools that you see that are out there are essentially some version of a core engine with a wrapper around it, with some additional features built in, usually for convenience. The two big ones, the one big one I'm going to mention over here is Replit, which you'll need to know which you'll need to see for the next demo. And Replit, essentially, all it does is it can edit code, it can find mistakes in code, it understands code, but it also does various other things like have a live preview of that code. It can also host your application. So these are the sort of features that are tremendously useful if you're using this very frequently for work or for personal projects. Then it makes sense to pay the money for Replit. Otherwise, you're getting that functionality already in ChatGPT or Claude. Similarly, you've got Jasper, right? Jasper is just something that generates marketing emails, but certain things are saved. They've got templates. If you ask it that I want this kind of brand tone in my emails, I want this kind of color palette in my emails, it'll preserve all that information and make sure all the emails being sent out are consistent. If you had to send out only 20 emails, let's say in a month, you could easily just say, I'm going to repeat those instructions in Claude or ChatGPT, it'll generate those emails for me, that's not a problem. But if you're sending 500 emails a month out, I can understand where it might make more sense to pay money for this convenience, where everything is saved over there. But that's what's important to note. These specialist apps are only useful if you're using them very, very frequently. Now, I've talked about Replit. I'm actually going to jump straight into our demo. So otherwise, it's just going to be me talking about slides, which I really don't want to do. Now, the first use case is AI tools for coding, which one actually works. And we're particularly looking at ChatGPT, Claude versus Replit. In this particular case, I created a small little compound interest calculator, and I'm going to see if it can find a bug in it. A very simple Python app, a compound interest calculator. Now let's say we start off with $100, 5% over 10 years. Let's see what that looks like. $165 approximately. Looks correct. Now we're going to introduce a bug. We've got the code here for calculate compound interest. And as you can see, we've got the rate here, which was 5 in our demo. Divide by 100, naturally, since we're converting the percentage to decimal. We're going to introduce a bug here and change this to, say, 10. And let's see what happens now. Back to our compound interest calculator app. I'm going to change this again to 100. Again, same thing, 5%, 10 years, calculate. And now we're getting a final amount of $13,411 approximately. Doesn't look right. We know there's probably a bug in there. Let's say this was our starting point. What exactly would we do at this stage? I've attached the code with the bug. Let's see if Claude can find it. This is obviously a very, very simple demo. I'm just going to give it instructions. The attached code has a bug. Find, highlight, give me a replacement code. Let me know where to insert it. And this is in real time. I'm recording it. Bug found. So we can see it's saying the bug is in the calculate compound interest function, line 15. The line's given as well. It says you need to divide by 100, not 10. So that's exactly correct. It's given an explanation. And it says replace this with this. This is exactly correct. Now we'll try the same thing with Replit. The attached code has a bug. Find, highlight, give me replacement code. Replit claims to have Claude behind the scenes, at least the last time I checked. So this should be interesting. Now it says found bug in Python code. Here we go. Bug found on line 16. Bug is in the percentage to decimal conversion. Should divide, it divides by 10 when it should divide by 100. That's exactly correct. And it says, would you like me to fix this for you? Now I've jumped a little bit, but essentially I said the attached code has a bug. It found the issue. Then I said this is a Streamlit Python app. Run it in the preview. So it fixes it and it runs it in the preview. And it's fixed. Now we segue into seeing exactly what Replit can also do. Right? We can ask it to suggest ways to make this compound interest calculator better. We can ask it to implement those changes. Or I'm actually going to ask it to do both. Improve on this app, add other related functions for use of a compound interest calculator, give it more oomph. Let's see what it comes up with. Now it says, I'll enhance this app with more features. It's going to add growth charts, year-by-year breakdown, monthly contribution, and comparison tools. Well, there you go. This definitely looks better. We've got a calculator. It's got something called a goal planner, something called learn. We've got a slider for investment period, a result summary, growth over time. So in about 2 minutes, it's added a complete new set of features. We can see the calculations change. It's even got a year-by-year breakdown over here. That was a fun demo, right? Now let's talk about caveats. Anytime you're talking about generating code or having generative AI tools touch your code, you've got to double check it manually. There's no way around it. Remember that these are generative AI tools. You have characters that are intelligently put into words, words that are intelligently put into sentences. Now, it's picked up those patterns for various types of code, right? Whether it's Python or whether it's Java or JavaScript. The trouble is, it could pick up the wrong patterns. So you've always got to double check it. That said, most LLMs today, most of these core engines today are trained on Stack Overflow, and Stack Overflow is fantastic when it comes to code quality because they only upvote the best of the best solutions. Still, double check all code. In fact, double check any figures, any math, and any code by generative AI tools. Now, this is the use case I'm most excited about. AI tools for slide decks. Now, for the technical people in the audience and the non-technical people in the audience, I'm quite sure everybody's got to generate slide decks. And if you're anything like me, then you absolutely hate making slide decks. But you have to. So which one actually works? I've been trying out various tools for the past 2 years, ever since they first came out. And the spoiler, obviously, is that this deck was made using Gamma and did a pretty good job. So this slide, you can see you've got a text box that is overlaid with another text box. You've got a bit of a formatting issue over here, a bit of a layout issue. And this was a slide that was generated by Claude. So again, not a deal breaker by any means, but you have to put in a lot more work when you're generating these slides from, say, Claude. ChatGPT, it's limited to HTML format output, and again, you've got certain limitations. It's not as flexible. Same thing with Claude. Copilot and MS Office does a great job, but you're tied to the Microsoft ecosystem. So for me, the clear choice was Gamma, provided it did well. And it really did. I'm going to start a demo of Gamma now so you can see what it looks like. I'm going to give a little demo of Gamma right now. So I've got my prompt. Make a presentation for non-technical executive management explaining the basics of cybersecurity. So I've given the topic, explain the basics of cybersecurity. I've given the audience, non-technical executive management, for their enterprise organization. And I've mentioned presentation, visual presentation choices, use a professional color palette, plenty of images and charts. And let's see how it works. That's already generating the slides. The text is normally something I change, but I usually use Gamma for the layout and the images. Again, it depends. In your particular case, you might prefer to leave the text in. Now it generates first this layout of sorts. Then I'm clicking generate, which is just outside the recording window. And I'm recording this without any breaks, just so you can kind of see how quickly it does this. I can already see the charts. I can see some images already in there. Let's have a quick look at the finished presentation now. This is what it starts with. We've got a nice little title screen here. We've got some figures over here, and I'm going to come back to those figures later on. That's the part you need to watch out for in generated AI. You've got a graph. I asked for graphs. It's giving me a graph. You've got some level of text organization. Understanding cybersecurity, the 3 pillars, there's a certain logic that flows through it. Common cyber threats you should know. Key defenses. You've got a nice little timeline visualization here. And again, in immediate impact, it says 200 million in direct revenue loss, 5 days of complete sales shutdown. Now, I'm going to touch upon this very quickly. It's going to generate these numbers. These numbers may or may not be based in reality. They may or may not have citations. So this is the part where you actually need to go and check, find citations, and amend. Because very often in generated AI, you cannot trust the numbers it comes up with. It's something you need to double check. Now, this is, again, your role as executive leadership. It's directly addressing the audience which we specified. Next steps, again, a very nice sort of logic it's built in terms of the structure for the presentation. And the slide deck ends with cybersecurity is everybody's business. And it's done this in a matter of minutes. In under 5 minutes, you've got an excellent presentation, which is a wonderful starting point. If I wanted to use the images, I could use the images. The graphs I'll probably need to go and adjust a little bit according to my own data, according to actual, real, trusted data. But this is an excellent starting point. Out of all the options available, Gamma gives the best slide decks as of today. We're going to have 2 more demos. The first is AI tools for research. We're going to pose a question about peanut allergies, and if they're linked to pesticides, please answer with citations to both Claude as well as Perplexity and compare the results. The second one is we're going to be presenting paragraphs of medical, legal, financial jargon to Claude and ask it to make sense, explain it like we're 10 years old. Now let's try out another research question. Are peanut allergies linked to pesticides? Give answers with citations. I'm going to try this in Perplexity. Now, first of all, I see it's incredibly fast compared to Claude or any of the others. It's got one linked sources. There are three sources, in fact. For current evidence does not show a direct proven link between pesticides and peanut allergies. So we've got 1, 2, 3 of them. And these are high quality citations. This is from the National Institute of Health. This is Food Allergy Canada. I'm not entirely sure if that's private or government website. But they're definitely giving citations. Now, what I like in this particular case is they've given 4 sources for the overall assessment. So essentially what they've done is they've read 4 papers and aggregated their opinions, which is exactly what a good research AI tool should do. I'm asking the same question from Claude, and it's taking a lot more time than Perplexity. Not a deal breaker by any means, provided the research is of a higher quality. Here we go. There's limited evidence, blah, 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 blah. They provided another theory. And let's have a look. They've got citations for specific opinions. There's one NIH one over here. There's one Science Daily over here. They've got a CNN citation over here. Now, a couple of things. Just offhand, without actually comparing citations, I see 2 things. One is Perplexity has more citations. Second of all, they've got higher quality citations from what I can make out. Again, I might be wrong. Just eyeballing them. For example, they don't have news sites such as CNN. But what I really, really like is that for one particular opinion, Perplexity has aggregated that opinion from multiple citations. They've read multiple papers and they've aggregated it to support one paragraph, one opinion. And that's, as I mentioned earlier, what a good research AI tool should do. Based on this, I would definitely say that Perplexity is much stronger than Claude in this particular regard. So here, I've got a prompt just to see the summarization and the natural language processing capabilities of Claude. And this is really the strength of most of these core engine LLMs. So I explain each of the following paragraphs like I'm 10 years old. So essentially, it's some kind of translation and explanation function I'm looking for. I've got a legal paragraph, I've got a medical paragraph, a financial one. I'll read the legal few sentences. Notwithstanding any other provision herein, the indemnifying party shall defend, indemnify, and hold harmless the indemnified party from an all blah 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 blah. Medical is patient presented with the acute exacerbation of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease with concomitant hypoxemic respiratory failure. I don't even know what these words mean, but that's the entire point. I want it with legal, medical, financial jargon and see if Claude can actually explain this well like M10. Okay, here you go. Legal paragraph. It says, imagine you and your friend make a deal. This paragraph says, if you break your promises in our deal and I get in trouble because of it, you have to fix everything. You have to pay for any problems, including paying for a lawyer if I need one. But I have to tell you quickly if there's a problem, and I have to help you fix it. And they've given an example. Medical paragraph, this is about someone who has a lung disease that makes it hard to breathe and suddenly it got a lot worse. And they've given a pretty good explanation. Now, again, I don't actually know what any of these paragraphs mean, other than the fact that they're full of jargon, but it looks correct. The financial paragraph says this is about a special club where people put their money together to try to make more money. The people running it can bet that some companies will do well and others will do badly. Yeah, the catch, you have to pay the club 2% of your money every year just for them to manage it. I gotta be honest, this is a pretty good explanation. So you've seen a bunch of use cases where AI tools, when used properly, are going to save you a bunch of time. And that's really the takeaway. You've got AI tools that will summarize paragraphs for you, that will write posts for you, that will hunt through documents for you, get you explanations, that will make slide decks for you, that will hunt for bugs in your code. But you can't rely on it 100%. That's the second takeaway. AI tools will save you time, but you've got to double check all the output. My advice, get a generalist AI tool that works for you, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini. Buy a specialist AI tool only if your use for that particular use case is really, really frequent. And just to summarize what we've been talking about, here's our AI tool selection guide for general tasks, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, slide decks, Gamma. At least as of now, Gamma is the clear winner. Research and search, Perplexity. For code, if you need advanced features, Replit, otherwise Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini work perfectly. I hope this was useful for you, and I hope this gets you started on your AI tools journey, saves you time, makes you a more efficient worker. Uh, Hit me up on LinkedIn, connect, and best of luck. Thanks for being a great audience.